All right, we got a lot of Mage changes this week to kind of all the specs. Start off with Arcane and Frost tier sets got reworked. Arcane just had like their explosion swap for barrage and then increased the damage of their barrage from their 4-piece, which is a lot smoother because you're really not casting that many explosions, so you just weren't proccing this very often in AoE. But now you will be, and that's great. This is a really fun feeling for set. For Frost, they just completely reworked it essentially and turned it into, I mean, kind of glacial fragments. But yeah, this is a little bit, I don't know, I say disappointing. It's not very interesting. The main reason they did this was because it was just making Spell Slinger way better relative, or is way stronger, I guess, for Spell Slinger compared to Frostfire was their reasoning. But this is a little bit of a boring tree or tier, partially because it's essentially the same thing our past two tier sets have been, where it's like, oh, pick a Frost ability, make it cleave. This time they picked Icelands. It also functions a little bit differently, so it's kind of weak, especially in single target. But this it hits the primary target, which both our previous two sets did not. But it also does a percentage spell power damage. It does not do a percentage of the abilities damage, so it doesn't incentivize you to play more Iceland's talents. So yeah, that's not ideal really, because it means you get play Glacial Spike and essentially get the same full value here. If you wanted to spec more into Frostbolt Talons or something, there's not something that incentivizes you to go all in on Iceland's damage to get the value of this, which sucks because that would be what would most likely give you an Iceland's playstyle. The other thing is, this also, unlike the previous two tier sets, since it's not a percentage of your Iceland's damage, is a flat spell power effect, which means it can crit, which means that you'll have incentive essentially to shatter your Ice Lance as an AoE to shatter its effect. You won't do anything too crazy, and don't really pay much attention to this build. You won't do anything too crazy, but for instance, you're more likely to want to take Frostbite, because when you're Ice Lancing, you're going to shatter the 4-set procs, and you're also potentially going to, with Frostfire in particular, use your excess frost procs by flurrying and then Ice Lancing, which you do normally anyway. It's just to say, if you have Glacial Spike or something, right? You really don't want to break that up by having something between the flurry and the Ice Lance. We'll see if that's really important, because to be honest, the proc does not do that much damage. So that's just a consideration. Interesting to think about. We'll see when Sims come out. And then we have all these changes, some to Sunfury, and then a little bit more to Fire and Arcane and Frost down below. First of all, they just changed this because that casting crowd control spell off GCD is kind of OP. They made it benefit time manipulation, which is fine. This is a good bug fix. Good. And then here, people were untalenting this because your exceptional spells or your spheres being consumed is just a DPS loss. So they made it now when it consumes a sphere, you get the damage buff that you got from the sphere until your cooldown ends, which is fine. It's good. Here they made this much better, where your barrage gets 4 Arcane Charges, so there are 2 separate effects, where when you barrage you get 4 Arcane Charges, and it doesn't affect, which is nice. It incentivizes you to barrage a little bit more in single target kind of consistently. That's fine, better than clear casting. And then this one is also good. It's potentially slightly imbalanced. You'll still generate spheres a little bit slower in AoE, but maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Should be fine. This should be totally fine. And then that's good. So yes, yeah, they didn't fix the fact that if you get hypothermia before you get an SKB thing, it doesn't do anything, but they just made it so that your hypothermia doesn't completely screw you out of proccing it if you're already hardcasting. For Arcane, they're going to add some new talent nodes that they haven't added yet, so we'll see this again. They changed a lot of the nodes, which we'll look at. They said this was redesigned. I mean, they just increased the damage by 2% again, and then made it so, I don't know, it wasn't reassigned. This is the same thing. And then they made it no longer a choice node. They buffed Magi Spark a lot. They buffed all of its base damage. They buffed Lay Drinker a lot, which isn't really as significant. I did a Q with Arxis, and his Lay Drinker only did 2.3% of his damage, partially because Splinters are just an insane amount of Arcane's damage right now, but Arcane's definitely doing big damage. I mean, look, his Arcane Barrage did 3 million in my, is that more than my Glacial Spike? Yeah, his Arcane Barrage literally did more damage than my Glacial Spike. Okay, that's kind of wild. And he wasn't even playing, Harmony. So, pretty crazy. This is good. This is good because it means we just take Presence of Mind, which is great for mobility and everything. For Fire, they just did all this stuff. They essentially got nerfed because it was doing really, really well in last week's M+ testing. It's kind of interesting that they did this. It's a hasted prop per minute. And for Frost, we kind of didn't really get anything. They took what was our old 4 set and made it a talent. I think this is really boring, and I would also be surprised if it was very strong, to be honest, because we don't really... Excellence isn't that insane. I don't know. We'll see. It does mean that you take an additional point in the second gate if you want this, which means you normally would not take Frozen Touch. So this is just kind of directly competing with Frozen Touch, so we'll see how that works. They removed Snowstorm entirely, put Ice Color there, so it's actually also, if you don't end up taking this in single target, it's now a 2-point investment to get Ice Color, whereas before it was a 1-point investment. They fixed some stuff, but yeah. So if we just look at the worth and talent calculator for Arcane, you can see this is what their tree looks like now. They improved Arcane Missiles and Crackling Energy down here, which makes them way harder to take, but they're pretty strong, so it's like, just remove them from the game, you know? That'd be nice. Arcane Cleave is technically kind of like a choice between amplification now, is what they're kind of looking for, which is okay. You're going to want amplification a decent amount. And now you're forced to improve clear casting. People wanted you to be forced in a slipstream because you can still dodge slipstream. It's now the only way to get enlightened, but enlightened's a lot weaker than it was in Dragonflight, especially because we don't have like mana gem and stuff to keep you above 70% mana like during most of your burn. So yeah. Anyway. I'm also not really a fan of like the way you get Reverberate. Impetus was definitely like something you could potentially drop in Mythic Plus comfortably, and now everything leading to Reverberate you can't really drop, and you also need Impetus to like get down here, because all of these are kind of situational, right? Impetus is like single target. This is also like completely single target, and then we just don't need mana from here. So yeah, there's kind of no choice you can make to just go for, mostly AoE to get past this node. You just have to take one of these, which I'm not really a fan of. Most of the time it's going to be Impetus, just so you can get to Presence of Mind and like Siphon Storm, of course, but yeah. So definitely needs a little more cooking, but it's looking better than it was before. So yeah, it would be potentially nice if we could not take this. Because that's not very useful in AoE, because Arcane Explosion sucks, and we aren't using missiles because no one's really taking Aether Attunement. But, Aether Attunement is very reachable at the moment, because it's no longer locked behind Arcane Debilitation, which this is not a very good talent. So, because we just don't cast missiles that often. And, yeah, so, but still, this looks nice. I like the Arcane Tree now. They didn't really change the Fire Tree, and of course we saw how the Frost Tree changed, just has Permafrost Lances here. Hopefully, for Frost at least, they just need to like fix all these really niche talents that we're probably not going to take very often, like Death's Chill, Cold Front, Fractured Frost, Deep Shatter, Frostbite, Sub-Zero. All those things need to go away, and they need to be replaced with something better. And Frost could really do with more choice nodes. We only have this one choice node, and this is a dead talent, so yeah. We also have just the lowest number of unique talent nodes on our tree, which isn't good. And like with Spellslinger, the splinters don't scale with our mastery. They scale with Arcane's mastery, so they should do that. The fact that you need a Blizzard to generate Controlled Instincts is really bad because, especially with our new tier set, there's just times where, like, if you have a bunch of Fingers Frost procs, you just might not want to Blizzard at all at a lower target count. In which case, you know, especially because with Spellslinger, you're generating Winter's Chill, which means you're doing a lot more Ice Lances, and you have that chance to generate your orbs from your splinters. So we just don't really need to Blizzard potentially at lower target counts with this. And it would just be better if they made it so this just was a passive effect from Frozen Orb, like it is a passive effect from Arcane Orb for Arcane. So anyway, I will potentially upload a Spellslinger video soonish, but there's no longer M+, and I didn't really get that good of footage, I think, when I was playing Spellslinger over the past couple days, but I will take a look and see if I can upload something for you guys. Otherwise, I'll just, you know, play some Spellslinger when they next do Mythic Plus. But yeah, all right. Let me know down below any comments, questions, whatevs, you know. Fun to talk. I'm definitely liking the way everything's shaping up for the War Within. I think I would feel a lot more positive about Frost if they changed like the default talent nodes. But I do really like Frostfire so far. And Spellslinger is fun when you get orb resets. If you don't, which is super RNG, it feels kind of bad. And I do really wish they had a Glacial Spike capstone past this. That was our current, you know, Season 3 Dragonflight 2 set. Because we have so many tools that make that playstyle better now, and we just won't have access to anymore. And, you know, going forward from like this tier onward, it could be an excellent choice node with, say, our current 4 set. But if it was a choice node, then you wouldn't want to place it behind the Glacial Spike, so it's a little confusing. Who knows? It could lean into it, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, lots of things to consider. Goodbye.